Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. This is John. I am the event coordinator here at Murder by the Book in Houston, and I'm super excited for tonight's event. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. I love that we're spending Friday the 13th talking about humorous cozies and funny ways to kill people. So before we get started, before I bring all of our authors out, I'll make a couple of quick announcements. Usually we do like a banner across the bottom that'll say what the event is. I'm not going to put that up this evening because we have me and 5 authors, which you guys to be able to see the authors' names on the screen so you'll know who's talking as they're talking. So I wanted to mention a couple things. First, the store is open. It's been, since we're coming up on October again, we've been open for the public for a year. You can come in, no appointment needed. We are strongly encouraging that you mask up. The numbers in Houston are not great at the moment. We're still not open on Sundays at the moment, so we're there Monday through Saturday from 10 to 6. If you are going back to curbside pickup, you can always just give us a call when you pull into the parking lot, and we're happy to run books out to you. We do have a handful of in-store events that we set up in June when things were looking a little bit better. Those are still on as of the moment, so if you look at the website, you'll see events either listed as in-store or virtual. We'll be kicking off the in-store events with Miranda James, aka Dean, who used to be the manager of the store for many years, on September 5th. So he's at 3 o'clock that Saturday afternoon. We've got a lot of other great cozy events coming out. We'll run through those real quick while everybody's clicking in and seeing we're getting some viewers come in. On the 26th of August, I'll be chatting with Hannah Dennison at 1 Central here virtually. We'll be chatting with Victoria Laurie on August 31st. As I mentioned, Miranda James will be in store September 4th at 3. And then in November, we're waiting a little bit after the events or after the release dates because we don't want to do a Christmas event in September, but we will be chatting with Maria DeRico, aka Ellen Byron, Louise Innes, and Darcy Hanna on November 6th about their upcoming Christmas releases. So definitely check that out. Also wanted to mention, if you have not checked out the YouTube channel, we have a playlist for all of our previous cozy events. So if you've missed any of those, you can check that out. We also have a cozy subscription service. So if you want us, specifically me, to pick out a cozy for you once a month and send it, we can do that. I'm going to drop a link to it's the Murder by the Box subscriptions. I'm going to put a link in the comments to that if you are interested in that. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is I recently started my own, kind of in conjunction with the store, but my own cozy Instagram. So if you were looking for more specific new release stuff, I share kind of favorite series that might be a little bit older, just general cozy stuff. I just dropped a link there as well. But now I'm going to get us started tonight. I'm going to bring all of our authors out one at a time and get them introduced. So we are going to start with Lucy Burdette. How are you tonight, Lucy?
I'm very well. I wish I was there at the bookstore, though.
I know.
It's really fun.
We miss having authors in the store, but we love that we've been able to do a lot more cozy author events and things like that, and pivot to some cool virtual stuff, which reminds me, I also forgot to mention in my intro, we just announced today that in 2 weeks, we're going to be partnering with the Crime Writers of Color. They were supposed to have a big reception at VoucherCon this year that they're not able to do, but we're going to be doing that virtually in 2 weeks on August 27th. So I hope everybody will come back for that. But so tonight, as I said, we're going to be talking about cozy, humorous cozies. So we're going to start off with Lucy. So clinical psychologist Lucy Burdette has published 15 mysteries, including the latest in the Key West Food Critic Mysteries. Her books and stories have been shortlisted for the Agatha, Anthony, and Macavity Awards. She's a member of Mystery Writers of America and a past president of Sisters in Crime. She lives in Madison, Connecticut, and Key West, Florida. So before we start bringing everybody out, Lucy, can you tell everybody a little bit about the newest book in your series and your character?
Yeah, I'll show it to you too. A Scone of Contention just came out this week, and it's number 11 in the series, and the main character is Haley Snow, who lives on a houseboat in Key West, and she's a food critic. Maybe if you're starting this series, don't start with this one because they go to Scotland for most of the book, so you won't get to see the whole quirky side of Key West. She started out just arriving in Key West because a man invited her. That blew up almost immediately, and she's been gradually getting her footing and has a whole collection of wonderful characters to support her. So I have so much fun writing them. And since we live there 6 months of the year, if I run out of ideas, I just step outside and they are there.
Yeah, Key West is such a funky place. I've only been once and definitely want to go back and explore some more. So next up, we have Ellen Byron. How are you tonight, Ellen?
I'm good. I don't see the links in the chat for some reason, because I'd love to learn more about the book and the other stuff. And I'm playing with my hair because I didn't have a chance to brush it before my oh my God.
You might not be able to see the links in the comment stuff. I can see those, but so when we're done, if you go, I can send you the links directly in an email.
Great. Okay.
You'll be able to see them on the Facebook page too. So I also wanted to send a big thank you to Ellen, because Ellen is the one.
Honestly.
So Ellen Byron, do her official biography here. So Agatha Award winner and USA Today bestselling author Ellen Byron is a television writer, playwright, and freelance journalist. Her TV credits include Wings, Still Standing, and Just Shoot Me, and her written work has appeared in Glamour, Redbook, and 17, among others. She lives in the Los Angeles area with her husband, their daughter, and the family's very spoiled rescue dog. A native New Yorker, Ellen still misses her hometown and still drives like a New York cabbie. So can you tell us a little bit about your newest book and a little bit about your series?
Well, Cajun Kiss of Death is the 7th book in my Cajun Country Mystery series, and it just came out on Tuesday. And a star chef opens a restaurant in this little town of Pelican, and he's kind of inspired by like an Emerald or an Anthony Bourdain, and creates havoc. There's also a potential stalker, and also my protagonist Mia is having a little bit of a crisis because she kind of meets an artist, and her husband gets her. It's their first Valentine's Day as a couple. As a married couple, and he buys her art lessons as a present. And unfortunately, the artist doesn't seem to think she's that good, so she has a bit of a crisis of confidence that she has to solve while solving mysteries through the book.
Perfect. So next up, we have Jennifer C. Chow. How are you tonight, Jennifer?
I'm good.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So Jennifer J. Chow grew up reading the Garfield comics and adores creating sassy kidlit. She also writes the Winston Wong mysteries, which feature a regular meowing cat. Her other Asian American novels include Dragonfly Dreams, which was a Teen Vogue pick, and the 228 Legacy. So Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about your series?
Sure. I write the Sassy Cat Mysteries, which has pet groomer Mimi Lee. She lives in Los Angeles, and she solves cases with her talking sassy cat, who's telepathic through their pet owner connection. There's also a love interest in my book, which is Josh, who is the lawyer boyfriend, but they're from rival colleges. He's from USC and she's from UCLA. And the latest one is Mimi Lee reads between the lines. There are actually 2 cats in this book. But this one also happens sort of around Valentine's Day, where Mimi goes to meet up with her sister for girls' night out. And her sister Alice works at the local elementary school. But when Mimi shows up, they find a dead body instead in the parking lot. So the suspects in this novel are the one jumpy principal, and then a 2-faced fiance, and 3 sketchy teachers. So it's just a lot of fun writing this series and giving like the hilarious lines to this cat right here.
Perfect. Thank you. Next up, we have Deborah H Goldstein. How are you tonight, Deborah?
Hi, fine. Delighted to be here, John. Thank you.
So Deborah H Goldstein is the author of the Sarah Blair mysteries, as well as Should Have Played Poker and IPPY award-winning Maize and Blue. Her short stories, including the Agatha and Anthony nominated The Night They Burned Miss Dixie's Place, have appeared in numerous periodicals and anthologies. An active Birmingham, Alabama civic volunteer, Deborah also serves on the national boards of Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers of America, and is president of SEMWA and past president of the Sisters in Crime Guppies chapter. So can you tell us a little bit about your series and your newest release?
Very simple. My series is about Sarah Blair. The 4th book just came out last month, 4 Cuts Too Many. And Sarah Blair is a very simple character. There's only one thing scarier for her than cooking from scratch, and that's maybe murder. But actually, cooking is what she's afraid of. Her sister is a gourmet chef. And in 4 Cuts Too Many, Sarah, who in the first book was married at 18, divorced at 28, and the only thing she got out of the marriage was Rara, her cat. By this book, she's doing better, and her sister sous chef, who is both sous chef and an adjunct teacher at one of the community colleges, wants to tell her something. But when she gets there, they discover that the teacher had a fight with her coordinator or director, and he's lying there dead with a deboning knife in his neck. And it just happens to be the sous chef's. So Sarah has one option. She either must sharpen her own skills and uncover the elusive killer, or her friend's going to jail. And so basically, when you're a person who finds that your best china is floral paper plates, catching real killers can sometimes be a challenge.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Libby Klein. How are you tonight, Libby?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So I love how we have you in the center. We have the rest of us on the side. It looks like we're like the Brady Bunch here. I love this.
That makes you like Alice, the housekeeper.
So Libby Klein graduated Lower Cape May Regional High School sometime in the 80s. Her classes revolved mostly around the culinary sciences and theater, with the occasional nap in chemistry. She has worked as a stay-at-home mom, climbing the ladder up the ranks to the coveted position of grandma. She also dabbles in the position of vice president of a technology company, which mostly involves bossing other people around, making spreadsheets, and taking out the trash. A member of Mystery Writers of America and Sisters in Crime, she writes from her Northern Virginia office while trying to keep her cat Figaro off her keyboard. So can you tell us a little bit about the newest in your series?
Well, I write the Poppy and Mcallister mysteries. This is the first. It's the one that's, I think, the most recognizable because of the bright pink. And Poppy is a middle-aged, plus-size widow who returns to her hometown of Cape May to go to her 25th high school reunion. So she gets stuck there, and 5 books later, we're on book 6. I can't figure out how to it's like swimming across the screen here. Beauty Expos are murdered. It just came out the very beginning of June. And I have a lot of Cape May, New Jersey landmarks in my series. That's where I grew up. That's where the series takes place. And this takes place at Convention Hall. There is a beauty expo, the one with the booths and everybody's got a different thing they're selling, vitamins to make you 20 years younger and smoothies to make your skin shine. And, take this pill and you'll lose 50 pounds, which we all want that. So we have a beauty expo, and she's been asked to come in to make her paleo treats as part of the health portion of the beauty expo. Well, they've brought in a renowned plastic surgeon named Dr. Lance Rubin, who's going to give consultations, and he's the keynote speaker to roll out this great new invention that he's been working on that he says will do away with everything else at the beauty expo, which is probably not the best place to bring this out and to mention this because not everybody hates him. So it's a very, very fun series where Poppy is an unwilling protagonist. She's an unwilling sleuth. She does not want to be involved in anything that's happening. Pretty much every time she finds a dead body, she just wants to run home and watch the Food Network and eat cookies. She does not want anything to do with it, but she gets sucked in every time, and it's always hilarious.
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to spread us all back out here. So I see we've got lots of people watching. As you are watching, if you guys have any questions for the authors while we're chatting tonight, please post those in the comments. I'll be monitoring those, and we'll get to those in a little bit. But first, I want to start, as we mentioned, we're talking about kind of humorous cozies this evening. So let's start with the obvious question, why humor? What made you decide that you wanted to write kind of funny mysteries? Let's start with Lucy.
I didn't really start out to write funny mysteries. It turns out that I have a funny character, and she is the octogenarian woman who lives on the houseboat next door to my main character, and she's old enough that she can say whatever she wants. She can ask any questions. She can make rude comments, and she turns out to be the one that's the most popular. People have called her the role model for senior citizens. So she's my role model now. So she's my funny man.
And how about you, Ellen?
You know what? I think like Lucy, it wasn't a conscious choice. It's just that that's basically what my career has been in, except for, even in the plays I write always had humor in them. Some were just flat out humorous, and some were, had humor and a combination of humor and heart, which is like what I'm striving for in my series. But, because I figure if I can make people laugh and choke up in the same book, I've kind of like achieved the I climbed to the top of the mountain. And I think it's also just how I operate. I've said before that humor is a defense mechanism. And I think it's either have a sense of humor, be on meds, or have a pet. So I have two of the three of those. I have the pet, and at any point in my life, I've had two of the three. Right now, it's always been sense of humor, and then the meds and the pet alternate. So, luckily for the last 20-something years, it's been a pet.
And how about you, Jennifer?
I actually like reading humorous mysteries. I think that's kind of what led me to write one. I wasn't quite sure it was humorous in the beginning, so when I wrote it, I just kind of wrote and had fun. But when I brought it to my critique group and they started laughing, I thought, aha, this will work for me. So that's how I got started.
And Deborah?
Well, I tend to be a very serious person, very somber, as you all know. But having been a judge, I had to keep myself and my face straight. But I always enjoyed reading cozies for fun. And when I started writing traditional and cozy mysteries, I realized that they deal with crafts, cooking, and all that kind of thing. And I realized I hate all that. So I decided I would write what I honestly believed, make it from scratch, make it funny. And I don't know how to write and express myself without humor. And people find it funny. I mean, like let me put it this way. During the pandemic, I've learned a lot about cooking. Did you know F8 means you've blown up the stove and F6 means you've just put it on fire?
And how about you, Libby?
First of all, I'm terrified of Deborah cooking. And I feel like we need to all send you a microwave or something.
Yes, the last thing you want is an invitation to a dinner party at Deborah's house, I'm sensing.
I mean, unless it's like a pizza party.
We go out. Don't laugh. I bring in pizza too some nights.
I think that's appreciated. It must be. Well, I didn't set out saying I'm going to write a funny series. I said I'm going to write a series about a plus-size woman who is not in a bad marriage or divorced or has a bad ex or dating. And I'm going to do something different. I'm going to put her back to where all of her nightmares began, where all of her worst memories are, where they come from, where they were born, and make her absolutely miserable while she tries to reinvent her life. And I'm going to give it this fascinating hook of being on the gluten-free diet because she has an autoimmune disease. And I very quickly found out that the only thing people cared about was that the book was hilarious. That's just the way my mind works. I wasn't trying to make it funny. In fact, in my series, the only person who's not funny is the main character. It's just my mind works like a 3-ring circus and it just falls out onto the page, and that's what you're stuck with. So I laugh every day when I write, whether I plan to or not.
And I would actually disagree. I think Poppy is her sense of humor and reacting to other people makes her very funny.
I think she's accidentally funny. Like when you read her inner dialogue, she's usually like, well, that's going to blow up. That's just how she thinks. But yeah, she usually is very unintentionally funny.
So Deborah, Joanne Love is watching and she says in the comments, takeout. Takeout is the way to go, Deborah.
Yes.
So Gail,
I was going to say, I think we've had you visit on Mystery Lover's Kitchen. Was that Jell-O in a can?
Yes, that was the recipe I gave you on that one. Very simple. Doe pineapple, Jell-O, and a can opener. All you need. And it looks really pretty on the silver tray. I walked into a speaking engagement, and there it was, all spread out on a silver tray in 2 colors.
Pretty.
So Gail had a great question in the comments. So she says, has it been more difficult to write funny these past 18 months, or has it been a nice escape for you? How about you,
Oh,
Lucy?
a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole past 18 months has been difficult. There's no doubt about it. About the first month when the pandemic was getting started, I was just frozen. I would wake up in the middle of the night and doom scroll, see, is this real? What's happening now? And then I decided, hey, I'm not going to waste however long this is just reading bad news. So I might as well write. The happy thing about this book was, as I said, it's in Scotland, and we had taken a fabulous musical trip to Scotland in June of 2019. So once I convinced my editor and agent that this made sense, whether it did or not, I could relive that trip, all the good parts and the not so good parts and the funny parts. So that all just came pouring out, and it was a lot of fun to write.
Yeah, I have to say that I feel like I've been doom scrolling for like 5 years now.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
And I think there was there's so much to deal with. I mean, I had to get my kid home from college and then watch as the dominoes fell in her life. And to this day now, it's like, am I going to get out of bed? Yes, I'm going to do it. And I do think writing funny and getting lost in these characters and their world where there weren't these crises. It's escapism for me as a reader, and it's escape for me as a writer.
I think it was hard for me. So when the other lockdown happened, I went from writing in this nice peaceful house all by myself, and then having like the kids come, homeschool, and just having like a full household. So I think it was really difficult in the beginning. And I was also doing the doom scrolling thing and looking at news and being overwhelmed by the news. And I think actually what really helped was doing these writing sprints that we did. Ellen and I blog on this group blog called Chicks on the Case, and we did these writing sprints. And so I was forced to write something and to kind of report back to the rest of them. And so that really kept me going and inspired me too to see everyone else striving and moving forward.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you. The beginning was difficult. However, going, like Ellen said, to the writing, I was writing this book, but then I also, during this period, has written the book that'll come out next year. And it gave me joy and it gave me humor, and I could forget about what was going on in the rest of my house, at least for a few hours. I didn't tell my husband I was playing solitaire. I just told him I was working, and very diligently. But
see, now, Deborah, I could not get away with this because since March of 2020, I've been sharing an office with my husband.
Oh, we're so stupid that we built a new house during the pandemic, and I put him on that side of the house with the big screen TV. It's been real peaceful. But I think that the humor is something that has helped get through this period.
Well, I had a lot of dry days where the writing wasn't as funny as it normally is. It's not a formulaic thing. It's more of a personality thing. So the drier that I felt, and it's hard for me to see so many other people hurting. To go on social media and so many people were struggling and hurting, and it just broke my heart every day because my daily life didn't change that drastically in that I already worked from home. Most everything in my life except for shopping was about the same as it had always been. While most of the country was binge watching Tiger King, I was writing wine tastings or murder because that's what I would have been doing regardless. So I kind of missed out on some of the fascinating things, but I had to do a couple extra passes, I think, to get some of the jokes in there. I noticed that there were some places that there was a lot of very funny things that I'd set up that I hadn't really brought home all the way on the first pass. I think my mind wasn't there.
But having read everybody's books, I can say one thing as a reader, because that was something I did do, is, whether it's one of the earlier ones in your series or a newer one, but it was relaxation. It took, the world was crazy, but every now and then you could get 2 hours of fun. When I went to Key West or I went to the catering place, or to the reunions and such. I mean, it was fun. It was funny. And I think that for our readers, that's part of what our ability is, to give them that, because we don't have everything else we can give them.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. The thing that meant the most to me over the past 18 months was if people wrote to me and said, your books are getting me through this. Well, that'll keep you going. That'll keep you writing. If you can do that, I mean, that's what we have to offer. So, yeah.
I think for me, I'm the only person here probably. I had to travel. I did 6 trips during the pandemic because we had to help our daughter relocate, and then to bring her back, and then do another, and then my mother was sick. So I think at some point it just became theater of the absurd for me. It's like, strap on the mask, strap on the face shield. Oh, is this a face shield trip, or is this not a face shield trip? Hey, it's not a face. Oh, it is a face. So at some point it was just like I threw up my hands and just like found the humor in the crazy situation, and of course it was a constant battle to find anti-fogging for my glasses. I think I spent as much on eyeglass unfogging stuff and masks as I did on a plane ticket.
You learn a lot about your neighbors too. Like I've learned there's clearly a gluten-free hoarder in my neighborhood. Because you can buy gluten-free anything for weeks. I'm like, who's hoarding all the pasta? And why toilet paper? Like out of everything here, you can live a long time without toilet paper if you have to. Yeah. And water. It comes right out of the tap at my house. Why do you need all that water?
Yeah. You don't live in Los Angeles where the water is tastes like stuff. It doesn't taste very good.
So we have lots of people mentioning in the comments too that as you guys mentioned, that like having your books throughout the pandemic has been wonderful. It's been great to see readers come into the store and people are looking for light. So it's been nice to see kind of Cozy's have this moment where people are looking for light stuff. We've probably sold through our Agatha Christie section 4 or 5 times because people have just wanted, we would order like 3s and 4s of every one of her books, and then a week later we're like, what do you mean we don't have this? They're gone, because people have just been turning to those things that bring them comfort, like Cozy's and Agatha Christie. And as I mentioned, one of the things that I love about it seems weird to say one of the things I love about the pandemic, but one of the things that has made having to pivot to doing virtual stuff and figure out like 47 different times how we were going to run a bookstore is being able to do events like this and being able to connect more with Cozy authors and Cozy readers. Because as I've mentioned before, if your book comes out and it's a $7.99 mass market, publishers don't always have the touring budget to send you on the road, and authors don't have the touring budget to send themselves on the road. So it's been nice to be able to do these panels, and like all of the publishers, Berkeley, Kensington, have been so supportive. Kensington several times have been like, hey, we want to do this. And I'm like, okay, these are the authors I've been reading. This one, this one, this one, this one. I'm like, done, let's set this up. So it's been really great to be able to connect with authors and so many new readers this way too.
And I don't know if anyone else has this feeling, but I begin to feel like I've actually seen people in person, and I have to remind myself that I haven't. I have this disconnect. It's like, I didn't see Libby. I saw her on a screen. Does anyone else have that feeling sometimes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
So Libby, you mentioned this, that sometimes if the funding isn't coming, you'll go back and do a pass where you insert into the thing, like maybe there's something funny here or there. Do any of you guys, the other of you, do that as well? Let's start with Lucy.
Yeah, I was saying my funniest character is Miss Gloria, the next door neighbor. And she's the one, if I was reading back through, I would say, well, wait, she needs to come forward more, and she needs to express some outrage about this. I have 2 writers group friends that I've been meeting with for 20 years. So they know all my books and characters. And the last time we met a couple weeks ago, there's a guy and a woman, and he said, really? She would say that? And I said, oh, yes, she would. And the other woman said, oh, yes, she would. So, yeah, so it's going back and maybe beefing her up a little bit that I would do.
Yeah, I definitely do a humor pass to make sure, and that's from that's from my TV days. I mean, it's just kind of force of habit to go through and find like, oh, here's a spot and it's really exciting. It's like mining for gold. Go, ooh, here's a great spot for a little humor, and it's also knowing where not to put the humor. I mean, you want to write to the real, and like you have to kind of put yourself in the head of someone who stumbles on a dead body. Well, they might not be cracking jokes at that particular time, unless it's like the end of the cold open for Law and Order, and it's Lenny Briscoe,
right? Or the first time my character was accused of murder, she was cracking jokes, but that was because she was so hysterically anxious. It's all she
so nervous, I bet.
So it just has to fit the character. It can't be silly funny.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, Jen, what about you?
I like to punch up the lines from Marshmallow. So he's probably my most hilarious character, right? And he's unfiltered. He's a cat, so he can really say anything he wants. And then it's great when Mimi's in situations where she can hear the cat talking, no one else around her can. So that's awkward when she responds to the cat. So I definitely punch up those lines. But I would say sometimes I have to do the opposite. So I have to cut down things, kind of like what you were saying, Ellen. Is like, okay, well, maybe it's this joke. It's great as a joke, but then it kind of stops the flow of the story. And so I definitely have to rely on, critique group, rely on my editor to say, well, okay, let's, tone this down. And I tend also to be very punny. So like, hopefully I'm not too punny. So I like make up all these like store names and everything. And I'm always wondering if my editor's going to come back and say, I don't know about some of these.
Is there such a thing as too punny in the cozy world? I don't think so.
Like I said, I've told you before, right? So I had some punny dog names for Mimi Lee Gets a Clue, which is the first in the series. And so I had like Doggone Dangerous and Pup to No Good. And then the marketing team was saying, you know what, that's a little bit too punny. Let's, take it down a level.
It's like when I hit is for a pun, I'm so proud of myself. Like I have a dog in Murder in the Bayou Boneyard, and the dog's name is Benedict Cumberpooch, which I thought was very brilliant on my part. And then this is like, I think on my tombstone, it may have to read, she came up with the title Long Island Iced Tina from my other series.
That's a good title.
I like that title. Yeah. For me, it's a little different because the comedy comes out, and it comes out from the situations because of the characters. Either she is so afraid of the kitchen, or the animals. I have to remember to put in the scenes because animals do have to go out to the bathroom and things. Those kind of things I sometimes forget. But I have to go back and do a pass to put in inner thoughts. I tend to forget to put that in. So when I go back to do that, I both put in her inner thoughts, some of which are funny, and as you can see, Rara from the very first book, Rara is very important, even though mine doesn't talk like Jennifer's. Rara is important because it's like the straight man, except he can give you a look, and that look is comical, and you just know it when you're reading it. But so I have to find those inner thoughts.
And I think as I reread, I sort of see everything unfold in my head, which is how I write. I just see it all happening and write it down. And once I've got the bones of a scene down, the next time I read it, it sort of opens up the ability to flesh it out, to see more things happening. Yeah. Now that I know what's going to happen, I've already written what's going to happen. Now I can sort of see all the comedy unfold in a scene.
So Laura says, no, not Laura. Jay Robinson says, so Jennifer, I know that your books feature a furry main character. So wants to know, where did Marshmallow come from? And then for the rest of you, you've all kind of mentioned pets, but can everybody talk a little bit more about their animal sidekicks and where they came from? So let's start with Jennifer and tell us a little bit about where Marshmallow came from.
So Marshmallow, I think you said in my bio that I read a lot of Garfield growing up, and I really did. And I think I kind of channeled some of that into Marshmallow. So I just really like this idea of giving him free reign to do whatever, say whatever, and still be sassy, and just kind of have fun with the character. And so I think that's really where it came from. And then I wanted to expand on that pet owner connection, which is why I kind of made him telepathic so that he can speak directly to Mimi, his owner. And I thought it'd be funnier too, so that it's not like everyone gets in on the cat human conversation. It's just Mimi and Marshmallow, and then they can just be partners in sleuthing too.
How about you, Lucy?
Yeah, there's always animals, usually cats, and now cats and dogs in this series. That when my main character came down from New Jersey to Key West for the first time, she brought her cat Evinrude with her. And then when she moved in with the old lady next door, she had a cat too. Now, I had lost all my animals the 2 years before that, and I was kind of holding back. What if I pick out a bad cat? You can pick out a bad cat, and then you're stuck with the thing for 15 or 18 years. So there was a woman at the gym who kept saying, oh, for heaven's sakes, I'll take you to the shelter and we'll pick out a cat. So I went with a friend. There had to be 50 cats in this one room. It was so overwhelming. We looked at each other and I said, I can't do this. This is too much. And then one jumped and hung from my shirt. So I said, well, that's got to be the cat. So I went to the desk and said, I'll take this cat. And they said, get in line. There's 6 people ahead of you. So I went home and just gave up. And my friend from the gym emailed me the next day and said, go pick out T-Bone. He is the best cat. I had wanted a yellow tiger. So he comes into the story he's in the key lime crime. They go to the shelter. Miss Gloria wants this cat and they bring him home. So the real cat here is very proud of himself because he's on the cover too. So yeah, the dog's jealous.
And for me, I just love my dogs. As I said, they're just I call them all my support animals when I have them. And we had Lucy was our rescue basset hound, and she lived in our when we first got her. She was almost 5. We had to block everything from under our beds because she kept going in under the beds. And then she lived in our bathroom closet. She kept hiding there. So I finally put a bed in there. And what's sweet about it is that kids would come over who were afraid of dogs and they go, well, I'd bring her. And then they were like, we want to see the dog in the closet. And I see people now and they said, my kid got over being afraid of dogs because of the dog in the closet. So we loved her so much. And then I also put my other doggies in the books. And I heard your story, Lucy, and it made me want to go in and adopt I wish I could adopt every animal on the planet.
I know, it's awful.
So.
I thought that for me, one of my subplots throughout the book is animal rescue and the animal shelter. And Sarah volunteers there. She walks dogs every weekend. But I wanted to, because it was a cozy, I was told I had to have a cat. I know nothing about cats when I started writing this, unlike you, Lucy. So I went and interviewed one of my dear friends who loves Siamese cats because I figured the only thing she'd get out of the marriage was Rah-Rah, the cat. And so I spent hours interviewing, watching, and observing, and to make it real. Now, by the time I got to book 2, which, as you can see on the cover, if I can get it in the right place, you see the cat and dog. Well, there's a reason for that. I grew up with dogs. I knew dogs. So I thought this was a great opportunity to bring in a rescue dog. So Fluffy follows Rah-Rah. I mean, if Rah-Rah does something, Fluffy will stay out of the way. Fluffy is subservient to the cat. But I knew what it was, so I brought both animals in because I wanted a balance. And
I actually have a cat in. I have a cat and a bird in the Catering Hall series, and now in the vintage cookbooks. Don't ask me why there are 2 peacocks. They're loaded with attitude.
Well, Kensington asked me what the cat should look like. Now I'm sitting there thinking, well, I know Siamese. I know the color. I wrote about it, but my friend had just sent me. Because she loved being interviewed, she sent me a picture of her cat, and I had just printed it out. So I'm sitting there to answer my editor, John's question, and I'm going, well, I think it should be a little brown. It should be maybe have the kind of eyes. And I'll be darned, they caught it perfectly. And my friend was delighted to have her cat become.
And then there's Figaro.
Yes, Figaro. Let's see if I can get him up there. He's actually on the cover of Wine Tasting. See him on the couch?
Yeah.
I just love that picture. He is so cute. He's a black smoke Persian, and he is my real life cat. Even though right now, most of the inspiration for Figaro is my extremely naughty calico Persian who has been systematically knocking everything off the counter during the thing. I want to talk to Zoom. I know that's not right. So Figaro is a very, very naughty Persian. His full name is Sir Figaro Newton, and he has a lot of the same what Jennifer described, where Poppy understands him, but he's not talking. Nobody can hear him, but she can understand him. And he has the weirdest trait where when he meets someone new or he feels threatened or he wants to make friends, he kind of goes completely stiff and then just flops over and hits the floor. It is bizarre and weird and taken 100% from real life. And
it's great every time it happens.
I thought there's something wrong with this cat. In Wine Tastings, he meets his nemesis, Tammy Faye Baker, who is not the televangelist's wife. She's a little Pomeranian. She's a teacup Pomeranian, and she pones him constantly. So that was a lot of fun. I had a little Pomeranian once upon a time, and it was fun to kind of put her in the book too.
Libby, did you ever get video of the cat?
You know, I never once thought about it. You don't think when you have your pets, they're your babies. You know, one day I'm put you in a book and make some money. I should take some pictures of you in like hats. I didn't think about it at the time. So now I have to use the real life pictures and Photoshop the hats and the bow ties and things. But I have pictures of Figaro for real, just none in flop mode. Sometimes you're thinking he's going to hurt himself. You hear that crack on the floor and you're like, oh God, are you okay? He's just laying there.
That's
he was
hilarious.
Fun. But I like that I get to write about him and I get to like have him around all the time now.
But you know what's also handy about these people have talked about, even when the cats or the pets don't communicate, you know, it gives your protagonist an ear sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like if there isn't someone else to talk to, they talk to the dog like we do. We talk to our pets. That's not unrealistic.
No.
So
they're good sounding boards and they're good at telling us hints about some of the other characters in the books.
Yep.
True.
Absolutely.
So Laura wants to know, she says, y'all have mentioned a few times your critique groups or writing groups. What are some ways that you can find a group or critique partner if you're a new writer? Let's start with Lucy.
So if you're writing mystery, I would start with Sisters in Crime. Sisters in Crime was founded in the 1980s by Sarah Paretsky and Nancy Picard and some other powerful writing women who realized that women were not getting the same reviews and advances that men were. And it started with about 9 women, and now I think the membership is over 4,000. So it's a very supportive group. It's across the United States and a few chapters in the world. And there's also a chapter for unpublished called The Guppies, which Deborah mentioned being the president of. And you can learn so much. I didn't know this existed when I started writing, so that's where I would go. And you can exchange manuscripts with people and figure out who you're clicking with. I was lucky that I found my people in my town, and the group morphed and changed over the years, but the 3 of us have stuck it out all this time. And I say one thing, even if somebody says, well, this is not working and here's how I would fix it, and it feels wrong, don't ignore what they're saying about this isn't working. Just I can fix it is what you have to figure out yourself.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate about the Guppies, and that's a subgroup, and it's an online group. And I've met some of my closest mystery friends via that group, and we tend to have little get-togethers at the conferences and the conventions. And they have you can find a partner, a critique partner through that. They offer online classes that are incredibly valuable. I know, and I think we're all members of Sisters in Crime. And I'm, who else is a guppy here? Me, Deborah,
I'm a guppy.
Jenny.
I'm a lurker.
So
I let it lapse.
You elapsed, I know.
I'm feeling you all look at me in shame right now. I'm like,
But no, it's about 50-50, 60-40 of published authors as well as non-published. So everybody pays it forward. Ellen's one of the best ones.
Okay. Well, we feel like, we don't leave because it's such a support. It's the one place where you just can get so much support.
I do still get to do the fantasy agent, which I love. So
yes,
that's when a writer sends in their first, I don't know what it is, 50 pages, couple chapters, and they give it to a published author to critique. So I do love volunteering for that.
Yeah.
And I would also add that in addition to Sisters in Crime, I found my critique group through Meetup. So if you're writing something that's not crime, you definitely could look for a Meetup writers critique group. And I would strongly encourage anyone who wants to do that to also do some research on how to give a good critique and how to receive a critique. So what should I take away and what should I ignore? Because if I changed everything in my books based on my critique group's first feedback, my second book would have been Battlestar Galactica. So you gotta know what to take and what not to take.
Absolutely. Learning to hear critique is invaluable because and also people will pitch ways to fix it that may not be. And I learned this in TV when a script didn't work, and all of a sudden the showrunner who was nervous would say, "Well, we have to do what the network wants," and we're like, "No, because that's a terrible idea what they pitched." But let's get to what the essence of the note is and address that. So so we would do that.
And both Sisters in Crime and MWA have chapters. And one of the things you can do is make friends there and make your own critique groups in them. And a lot of them do have, write-ins, and they do have formal critique groups that they'll assign you. There are other writers groups in your communities, like in Atlanta and such. And also some of the libraries offer.
I was just going to say the library,
And what I did, because I was in an area that didn't offer this, besides Guppies, that was one of the things, because I didn't, the closest land chapter was, 3 hours. I picked a few of my friends and said, we don't do a critique like you do, Lucy, but anytime I'm really stumped on something, I send them the things because I know they either hate mysteries or they have different ideas, and they chop it to me. It fits, but it's wonderful for me because then I know, okay, if two of them are saying that, something's not coming across.
Something's not working. Yeah.
I agree with all of you. I mean, I was going to say libraries too. I've definitely seen posters saying, we're going to meet up and we like to, even readers groups in the libraries that read a certain genre that you can connect with. But and also Sisters in Crime. And I'm actually pretty recent a member of Guppies because I don't think I heard about it right away. And so I kind of waited and thought maybe I couldn't join, but like Deborah said, you could definitely join anytime. And so I would recommend that group. For me, I also have a local group, and that formed, I think it was like friend of a friend. We all happened to take courses from the UCLA writing program. So then some took the courses online, some took it in person, and then we just ended up connecting with each other and meeting up. Well, we were meeting up regularly in person. Now it's all virtual.
And for anybody who's local, we do have a Houston chapter of Sisters in Crime. Their next meeting is, I just pulled this up. Their next meeting is this Sunday, August 15th at 2 p.m. They're meeting virtually right now. If you go to the Murder by the Book website, I'll actually drop the link in the comments now so you can see directly the page. It'll give you the info on who to email and how to join. They were meeting at the store. I think they got to meet twice before we had to shut everything down earlier this year. We're hoping to get them back in the store soon. So if you're local and you're interested in meeting some local mystery authors, definitely check out our local Sisters in Crime as well. Since we're speaking about humor, let's talk about if you guys could each maybe share an epic fail from one of your books. Maybe you got something wrong about a character. Maybe you left something out of a recipe. So let's talk about kind of an epic fail moment of your own. Let's start with Lucy.
Well, I'm going to pass because I can't think of anything. I'll think of it while they're talking.
Okay.
Okay, I have 2 epic fails, and the first is huge. For some bizarre reason that I cannot explain, I keep naming my protagonists names that start with M. It's Maggie for Magnolia in the catering Cajun countries. Then it's Mia in the catering halls. And then I thought, oh, the vintage cookbook, her name is Ricky. That's her nickname. Well, her full name is Miracle. But anyway, so in the first book, Here Comes the Body of the Catering Hall Mysteries, on page 1, I called her Maggie instead of Mia, and totally missed it, and I did like a search, missed it, everyone missed it. So the book went out with that. And then the other epic fail was that, I will tinker with recipes. I'm not a born cook. I'm really much more like Sarah Blair than I am like, Julia Childs. But I started writing, including mysteries, because I was making myself hungry. So I figured my readers would be hungry. So suddenly now I include recipes in my book. And so sometimes I tinker because I always want to make them my own on some level. And in Body on the Bayou, there is an ingredient missing, because when I did a tinker, I left it out. So when people would give me a hardcover to sign of that book, I would immediately go to the page and write it in. And then I have books of my own that I'll send out to some people, and they'll find that in the recipe page written in purple ink is, and don't forget to add this. So those are my epic fails.
Epic fails. Okay, I think for me, well, one is, so Mimi's mom is a Malaysian Chinese, which my dad is also, and she speaks in Manglish. So it has like English, but then it has like Malay phrases and like just other different types of languages in there. And even though I asked my dad to check, and then I also have like this phrase book and everything, I did like swap out a word. It had the similar like beginning sound or something, and then I just totally glossed over it. So that's in the book. I can't remember which one, if it was book 1 or book 2. And then the other thing, which was an almost fail, I suppose, was in book 1. So Mimi often gets together with her family, and they do family game night together. And they're playing the Scrabble game. And it's interesting because you can see sort of what the characters are thinking of the words they're putting on the board. So they're putting these words down, and I inserted this word, I did it, I think, by paper. And I was like, oh, this word would totally work. And then the proofreader before the book came out was like, that doesn't work because of like the point system in Scrabble and the number of tiles you have. So I was like, oh, so we had to like change it. But thank goodness for good proofreaders. That's all I'm saying.
I think I've got a few, but the funniest one is the most recent one. In the book, 4 Cuts Too Many, we went over everything very carefully. So in the book itself, there's nothing wrong. You call me if there is. But in the acknowledgments, I have learned that people don't proof the acknowledgments as well. And I thought I was writing so well because I had a lot of friends who'd helped me get started on this book. And I have a few friends who, like I said, read my books. So I wrote this thing, and it's in here in the acknowledgement. I wanted to thank my beta readers, but I was trying to think of different ways of thanking people. So I said, I acknowledge so-and-so, and I said this, and I want to thank Lee for being such a master, M-A-S-T-R, beta reader. Together. Only after the book was published and he read the acknowledgement did he bring it to my attention. It's in there. Yeah. Don't forget to read the acknoglements in book 4.
That's hilarious.
I cannot top that. I'll start with that. I did learn that readers are supposed to not notice the words like she said and he asked. But I was listening to a very popular author's book, and if you're going to name a character Jack and he's going to ask a lot of questions, you got a lot of jackass happening. And I thought, note to self, remember this. I have a couple, and I only know them because eventually somebody will feel like you cannot sleep at night unless they tell you about a mistake that you've made, and they will write to you. And one is that Poppy in the very first book says that she hasn't seen Aunt Ginny in forever because when she left Cape May, she didn't look back. Yeah. She was miserable there. She didn't want to see it again. And then somewhere else, she mentions her husband, her first husband, had passed away about 6 months before the book opens, and Aunt Ginny was at the funeral. So, of course, someone was like, well, how could she be at the funeral? She hasn't seen her for years. Okay, have you ever lost anyone? You're not really there at the time. But that was a mistake. And another one, somebody pointed out several books later, apparently Poppy has 2 cell phones because she put one down and then she was on it later. So I figure she must have a work phone and a home phone, a personal cell phone. She put one down and had the other with her. And then one that I think Jennifer might appreciate. I have little tiny bits of Italian in my book because there's a very sexy Italian barista by the name of Giampaolo. And I had somebody, maybe around book 4, I think, write to me and say, I love your books. They're so funny. They're so good. They're my favorite. But your Italian is not so good. And I thought, what's the most gracious thing I can say here? Are you volunteering to fix it? And they're like, oh, my God. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I am a native Italian speaker. And I grew up in Italy. So I'm like, well, okay, yeah, sure. So now I sent her like, here's everything I'm putting in the book. And here's what it's supposed to mean. Right. So I did this. 2 books later, this person has done all of my Italian. I get a note from a 3rd person saying, your Italian's not good. You're a native Italian speaker and all this is wrong. And I was like, it was written.
Oh, that's hilarious.
When I was in Italy, and I've been to Italy a couple of times, it's not all the same everywhere. Once you get up to Tuscany, Bologna, when they say pasta, they mean pastry. So I'm like, is this a problem where I'm screwing up, or is this a problem where the Italian is from somewhere else in Italy?
Yeah, my mother's Italian, and she still speaks a dialect. Oh, by the way, one other epic fail is that someone bought a naming at auction, at a Malice auction, and the book, I was so excited. The book comes out. I'm very excited. I spelled their name wrong.
Oh, no.
So all over the place, and I didn't realize it in time. And so I wrote them into this book, into Cajun Kiss of Death, and made sure I spelled it right. So they got 2 pumps, but one, their main name is in the Kindle. They fixed it, but they couldn't do anything in the print.
Did you think of anything, Lucy?
Yes, I did, because Ellen reminded me, and my husband will never let me forget this. A local guy who is a painter bought a name at auction, and I made him into not quite a child molester, but it was not a good character. My husband said, the guy paid $500 and this is what you're giving him. So I learned from my mistakes.
That's rough.
Yeah, that's bad.
All right. So last question for the evening, but it's going to be a 2-parter. First part is, and my disclaimer is you can't mention anybody else on the panel. First part is, what is something that you've read lately that you loved? And the second part is, what are you working on, or what do you have coming up next?
That is the mystery word for the day. I think the duck supposed to come down and Groucho was supposed to say something.
Okay, who has that classic doorbell?
That was mine, I think.
Perfect timing. We're saved by the bell.
Extra flourish.
So,
all right. So Lucy, what have you read lately that you loved?
Yeah. What I'm reading right now that I can't wait to get back for is Jen McKinley's new women's fiction called Wait For It. She writes mystery series too, but she's branched out and she's terrific and she's very, very funny. Yeah. I'm number 12 in this series is due in 2.5 weeks. and it's called A Dish to Die For, and it'll be out next summer. And somebody asked, could there never be too many puns in Cozy Land? Well, so I had a suggestion for a title, which was Conch and Circumstance, which was so good. And the publisher turned it down. So it's a dish to die for. Anyway, it's all good.
For me, in terms of, I recently read, I love historical mysteries. It's like possibly one of my favorite categories. And I just read, I went back because the Todds were going to be at a BoucherCon. So I wanted to reacquaint myself with their work. And I read The Black Ascot, and I really enjoyed it. I really love getting lost in a time as well as a location. And what I'm working on is the fourth catering hall mystery, which is they're going to film a show called The Dons of Ditmars about Ditmars Boulevard, and so that's really fun. It's like a reality show, so I had to actually watch a reality show, which was hell on earth. It's not my thing. And I'm also, my first vintage cookbook mystery, Bayou Book Thief, comes out in June. I'm really excited, with the peacocks, who are not the protagonists, but they're there.
So for me, I think I really liked Mango Marble Murder by Raquel V. Reyes. So that's coming out, I think, in the fall, in October. And on my to-read list is Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sontado. And I just haven't gotten a chance to read it yet. What's coming up next for me is, I guess I have two things. One is I'm actually part of this anthology, which is Midnight Hour. And it's with... It's not cozy, so it says right here, a chilling anthology of crime fiction from 20 authors of color. So that's November 9th, I believe it comes out. And then I have the next in my Sassy Cat series, which is called Mimi Lee Cracks the Code, which comes out November 30th. And it's Los Angeles, but it's also, she kind of also goes to Catalina Island too, so it's got a little bit of change of scenery in that as well.
I'm super excited about Mango Mambo Murder. It's in my stack too. I can't wait to get to that one.
I'm having some fun. I went back and I'm reading Mary Kay Andrews, but not as Mary Kay Andrews. I'm reading her as Kathy Hogan Trocheck, where she wrote the Garrity books. John, help me with the name. Yeah. And I'm reading them all now because they're fantastic and they're funny and they're perfect cozies. But I didn't know that she had written those. I didn't put them together at first. What I am working on is I've got 4 short stories coming out within the next 6-7 months. One just came out 2 weeks ago in an anthology. But I also have just turned in the 5th book for the Sarah Blair mysteries, and it's called 5 Bells Too Many. It'll be out next summer. And in this one, a New York television show wants to do a perfect Southern wedding because my books are set in a small Southern town. And they have 5 finalist couples. 4 of them are what you'd expect in their 20s, hoping to get the perfect wedding. One is Mother Maybelle, who is Sarah's mother, who is a very funny character in her own right. Let me put it this way. When she says, bless your heart, she takes over and controls everything. But the bottom line is the television show requires that there be chaperones because, those 20-year-olds might get in trouble. Well, even if you're 62, you have to have a chaperone. So Sarah's going to be her chaperone. Watch out for what happens.
That's funny.
I love those Mary Kay Andrews Callahan Garrity's. I still have one left because I don't want the series to be done, and she hasn't done it anymore. So I'm just holding on to one more of them. Yeah. How about you, Libby?
Well, I'm in a group on Facebook called the Cozy Mystery Crew, and we've been doing our summer reading program. And Ellen, of course, has some fabulous books in the summer reading program, which are always so much fun. The one that I just finished and the one that I'm reading now are 2 of our Cozy Mystery Crew writers of color. Esme Addison wrote a great paranormal cozy called A Spell for Trouble. It's about mermaids and Polish culture and magic, and it was delightful, and I loved it. And it had a little bit of romance, which is what hooks me very quickly in any series. And right now I'm reading Olivia Matthews' book, what is it? One More Page? Is it called One More Page, Ellen?
I think so. I have to look it up.
I'm
Peach
looking it up
Coast
right now.
Library. I think it's called One More Pages. It's so
Murder on Page 1 or something.
Murder on Page 1. That's it.
Something like that.
You know, One More Page is a bookstore because I love my bookstore. So that's where I got that. Both of them are wonderful. They both have some humor and some romance. And I mean, I could not recommend them highly enough. Also, what I'm working on is I just finished Antique Auctions or Murder, which I have no idea when it comes out. I've totally forgotten at this point. But it's about an antique show, a real antique show that takes place in real Cold Spring Village in real Cape May with a totally fake fictional auction house across the street. And I'm writing my Halloween book, which was Ellen's idea. Ellen was the one who was like, you've got to write a Halloween book. So I'm writing my Halloween book called Mischief Nights or Murder. And Mischief Night is a very regional actual event in like the Philadelphia, New Jersey. So it's the night before Halloween when the kids have the audacity to like egg the house and toilet paper the house. And then they go back the next day and ask for candy. So that's what I'm working on.
I grew up in Delaware, so I'm very familiar with Mischief Night. And I just looked it up. Antique Auctions Are Murder comes out in February.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And so you mentioned Esme Addison. I was also a big fan of that series. I chatted with her and S.C. Perkins and Sherry Harris a couple of weeks ago. So as I mentioned at the beginning, if you guys have missed any of our cozy events, we've got them all up on the YouTube channel, and I've created a playlist that has all of them in one spot, so you can check them all out. So I think that is going to do it for us this evening. I wanted to send another huge thank you to Ellen Byron for helping put all of this together. She emailed me about doing an event, and she got everybody together. So thank you so much, Ellen, for doing this. I can't wait to chat with you about the new Christmas book in November. There we go. Over the pro, she's got it right there to hold up. And so thank you to Lucy and Jennifer and Deborah and Libby for joining us this evening. It was great to meet all of you. I hope you guys all have a great evening, and I hope we get to do this at some point in store and get to see you all in person.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a fabulous store.
We love Murder by the Book.
Thank you so much.
Have a
You
good
guys
night.
are great.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
You
Bye.
too.